quickly running out of time, and we need to start the third panel discussion as soon as possible. The topic for the third panel discussion this evening is Data Security in Agile Digital Enterprise. I would request our moderator for the third panel discussion, Mohammad Maad, Chief Information Security Officer, Faisal Bank, to join us on stage. Assalamu alaikum. I would also request the following panelists to follow Mr. Maad. Abdul Qadir, Head of Information Security, National Bank of Pakistan. Mr. Abdul Qadir. Mr. Muhammad Haris Hashmi, AVP Network and Systems, IT, Al Baraka Bank. Mr. SM Naved Raza Naqvi, CISO and BCP Manager, Habib Metropolitan Bank.
Assalamu alaikum, Haris.
Mr. Syed Hassan Aslam, CISO, Central Depository Company.
Hello. Is it on? Hello.
Okay, Mr. Maad, you take over now.
Thank you very much. I just have to switch this on. Oh, it's on. Have a seat, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ji. I'm actually humbled to be up here in the company of such learned professionals and colleagues. मैं तो पीछे बैठ के सबसे सुन रहा था, and I was trying to learn my way around because I still consider myself a student and don't deserve the introduction or the place that I'm sitting in. But anyway, the guys have entrusted me to run this session, and it's all about security. Of course, we have learned a lot about and listened to a lot of opinions and about a lot of facts, how security is being seen in different organizations, especially in the perspective of agility. मेरे हिसाब से agility is about the responsiveness of any organization or any department, कि challenges, issues, opportunities आती हैं, how quickly we can respond to them. Of course, challenges से हम दूर भागना चाहते हैं, opportunities को हम tap करना चाहते हैं. So कितनी हमारी responsiveness है, that's all about agility. And of course, security is something which comes hand in hand with the business. पहले ज़माने में होता था जी कि security department अलग से कोई चीज़ होती थी, but I think कामरान ने बहुत अच्छी बात की थी. Security is all about business. अगर हम अपने business को protect करना चाहते हैं, तो we must understand what the business is, and हमें business की language बोलनी पड़ती है. So, with that theme in mind, मेरे पास जो learner group मौजूद है, so because I just have some questions put in, मेरी memory इतनी अच्छी नहीं है तो मुझे लिखना पड़ जाता है जी. बहुत सारे challenges हमें मिलते हैं in today's world. अगर हम agility की बात करें या नहीं भी करें, so उस वाले से अब्दुल कादिर साहब, आपका opinion क्या बनता है? I mean, आजकल की जो enterprises हैं, especially कामरान ने एक तस्करा किया था about digital banking. So banks are moving away from the bricks and mortar and other traditional services. How security is being looked at into this agile and digital environment?
पहली बात तो ये है, thank you very much. दूसरा, I want to keep it on a lighter note क्योंकि लोग थके हुए नज़र आ रहे हैं. First thing is कि this agile network is they're talking about it, but even in late 80s and early 90s, it was pitched as rapid application development, when you put together different libraries, and DLL come as a part of it just to have a RAD. And then they came up with the ISO for the quality assurance, that just-in-time production. Even to so that they have like Microsoft has marked their product with the year name, like Windows 95, Windows 2000. So that has to be completed on those target lines. Otherwise, the whole product is named for that. Today, when you're talking about the agile digital organization or enterprises, meaning the customer is changing. Javed Yusuf, Adil said that the only thing constant is change, and I would say yes, it is, but right now the rate of the change is accelerating. So that's, I think, is agility. First, what we want to do is the thing we were about to expect was in 1 month. Like if I want my check to be cleared was 2 free days. Now I want it on a click, and I expect a SMS on it. So these are the things. Now coming back to this agility, when you are having changes fast, you want to have fast changes, then you have to you have a different set of the security challenges.
Okay.
Because then you have, before that the IS was supposed to give the guidelines, governance part, and then at the end of the thing the product was tested, and if there are gaps then you send it back. But now this model cannot work because there is a pressure to deliver things faster. So then what we need to do is we have to involve the security aspect at each stage. If you are developing a product or acquiring the product, you have to initially, before they do for the technology or the business logic, you have to sit with them, check if the security is compliance, and security is implemented and measured or gauged or validated at each product cycle. So this is what my take is on it.
I think that's just a very interesting point. Of course, जिस तरह आपने कहा था कि the rate of change is changing dramatically. Of course, security को भी इससे pace रखना पड़ता है. So we have to keep pace with that. Haris, what do you think? I mean, अगर हमें इस level of agility जो कि organizations में अब नज़र आ रही है, I mean, they are very fast paced. किसी के पास टाइम नहीं है कि जी प्रोडक्ट आज बनानी है, कल लॉन्च करनी है और परसों हमने उसके बेनिफिट्स रीप करने हैं. How do you think security processes can have agility built into them?
Like, hello? नहीं माइक नहीं माइक हेलो हाँ आई थिंक इसके अंदर the main part the main thing that we can do to speed up or boost up to embed security processes that is the early involvement of the information security officer or the IT auditor, you can say, or your information security officer. So he will really help, because if he is involved in the initial meetings, so he can suggest control, or he can kill the risk up front. So that will really help for agile development or for early delivery of the projects. And the security, I think, will be embedded initially. Start from the design, you can say.
Okay. All right. अगर हम उस पर ये देखते हैं कि अपने सिक्योरिटी प्रोसेसेस को अगर हम किसी तरह से एजाइल बनाएं, डू यू थिंक हारिस उसमें आज जितने भी हमारे सिक्योरिटी प्रोसेस मौजूद हैं हमारी अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में, इज़ देयर अ लॉट ऑफ फैट इन इट? हमें किसी तरह से बीपीआर करना पड़े उसका, ताकि हम किसी तरह से टाइम टू मार्केट रिड्यूस कर सकें?
उसको रिड्यूस करने आई थिंक बिजनेस इसका रिव्यू ऑफ कोर्स सिक्योरिटी प्रोसेसेस का होता है, बिकॉज ऑफ द टेक्नोलॉजी जो जिस स्पेस के साथ अब चेंज हो रही है. सो वी हैव टू अडॉप्ट द न्यू टूल्स. वी हैव न्यू इसके अंदर जो है न्यू थ्रेट्स इंट्रोड्यूस होती रहती हैं. सो उसके अंदर हमें उसको अकॉर्डिंगली हमने उसको हैंडल करना पड़ेगा.
ऑफ कोर्स
तो प्रोसेसेस जो है अकॉर्डिंगली आपको उसके साथ रिवाइज करने पड़ेंगे अपने. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि हमने बना लिया और फ्रीज कर दिया उसको.
अब्दुल कादिर साहब ने भी इसी को पॉइंट आउट किया था कि जिस तरह से पहले डेवलपमेंट होती थी या ऑपरेशंस होते थे, ऑफ कोर्स पीपल चेंज, और जिस तरह से हमारे दूसरे प्रोसेसेस, टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोसेस, ऑपरेशंस के प्रोसेस चेंज हो रहे हैं, सिक्योरिटी प्रोसेसेस आल्सो हैव टू अडैप्ट एंड उनको भी हमें थोड़ा सा एजाइल करना पड़ेगा. Hasan, I come to you, and एक लीडिंग क्वेश्चन मेरे जहन में ये आ रहा है कि यस वी अंडरस्टैंड कि बिजनेस का जो फुटप्रिंट है वो ड्रामेटिकली चेंज हो रहा है. मिलेनियल्स जिस तरह कामरान की प्रेजेंटेशन में था जी, पीपल डिमांड कि जी हमें सर्विसेज इस तरह से नहीं चाहिए जिस तरह से हमें चाहिए, ऐप की सूरत में चाहिए. वी वांट द रिस्पांस टाइम्स टू बी वेरी क्विक. आपके ख्याल में जो सिक्योरिटी के अंदर ट्रेंड्स हैं विद द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ एजिलिटी, वो किस तरह से आ रहे हैं? कौन कौन सी चीज़ें ऐसी हैं विच पीपल इन बैंक्स, टेलकोज, इन अदर इंडस्ट्रीज अडैप्ट?
आई थिंक rightly said. आवाज़ आ रही? I think it's rightly said that the rate of change is increasing. But it's not only increasing, it's also disrupting. It's the change which is challenging the status quo in terms of not only technology front, I would say it is also on the security front. For example, जिस तरह cloud computing है, अब cloud computing where it's not only that certain solutions are available on cloud, it's the security also on the cloud. We have seen DDoS protection, it's available through cloud. We are also looking at access brokers, which are also available online. So you can always augment agile approach with an agile security product or offering. And I would also add in terms of improving the process, typically all of these frameworks like ISO 27001, they demand a continuous improvement. And that continuous improvement could be only done while you measure your processes and trying to induct security not only at the design level, but from the inception. That is, you engage with the product development team, you try to understand what is the offering of the product, which is a target audience, and then obviously design a security which is tailored to that particular population. For example, millennials, perhaps one of the trends we see they have sort of negotiated their privacy for accessibility or easiness. So take an example of Google Maps. You are obviously using it to see the traffic jams, but then you are giving up on your privacy that where I was yesterday or day before yesterday, or any other location-based services, but we all use it. So slightly this trend is also changing, and that demands a different security approach rather than having a brick and mortar or security design which only allows login at a certain time. It's like continuously you're logged in, you're being tracked, but still you have to make it secure.
I think a point which, this point actually is one of my personal favorites. Yes, logging is something that we need to do, but where we draw the line, because the amount of logs that we keep on piling up, हमारे जो solutions हैं जो कि इन logs को analyze करते हैं, को relate करते हैं, उनकी भी एक certain capacity है. Do you think that we can continue investing on those technologies to find out this is more to do with the traditional way of handling security?
I think this will also get disrupted. That is looking only at the logs. In fact, when you build security within the product, you would perhaps be using something like deep learning is a very promising technology. So what it does is it is capable of profiling behaviors, profiling assets, profiling users. For example, if you must have noticed, Google is still doing that. If you log in from another device, it highlights that you have logged in from another device or even used another browser. So apart from logging only, you would have to gel into the product. And like we have seen, the trend is now shifting. For example, in past we used to see data leakage incidents, but now we are not looking at data leakage only. We are usually looking at data access or data manipulation. I think last week the shadow brokers report leak, it highlights that NSA had access to the SWIFT network, banking network, and since long. And at least they had targeted one bank in the Middle East. And you can never say this Bangladesh incident was NSA'd or not.
I know, it's not in so clear words, but
yeah,
we can get the message out of that.
In fact, you have to look at the whole picture. Perhaps Kamran also highlighted that you have to understand the business process because only part of it is automated. Rest of it is still manual, still process-based. So if there is a caveat or a loophole within the business process, which can be exploited through, let's say, a technical technique like phishing or anything, then you will get exploited. And the net result is not only nuisance creation like website defacement, it's like monetary gain. Or like we have seen in the malware landscape, we used to have virus which used to delete files or slow down the machines, but now there are ransomwares which are practically hijacking the user using the same old technique to proliferate the network. But end of the day, trying to elicit money. So the target is very much business oriented. It's no more IT security. It was never an IT security. It was always the information security.
That's true.
But perhaps the perception is now getting realistic.
I think that's something very positive in the coming years. And I think taking that into account, the way businesses are moving into more agile environment, more digital, so to speak, digital footprint, I think the threat landscape is also getting affected. I'm saying a very different thing. The threat landscape, of course, gets changed over a period of time, but because of the shift in the operations of organizations from traditional bricks and mortars to more agility, more digital, that is also changing or making the threat landscape change. What's your take on that, Naveed?
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you Mr. Ahmad for this question. The question is how the digital economy changes the threat landscape. So first we need to know what is a digital economy, right? Digital, everyone sitting here are very much aware about the word digital. What is digital? The digital economies is basically an economy that is based on the digitally computing technologies. Or we can say, in other words, it also referred as the internet economy or the World Wide Web or the web economies. We can also refer as the business, the way of doing business through the infrastructure based on the internet or the World Wide Web, WWW. Now, if we talk about the threat landscape, what is the threat landscape? A threat landscape is a collection of threats in a particular domain where we know the identified vulnerable assets, the risks, the threats, and the threat actors. And we all know about all these things. We must know that we are not dealing or we are not fighting with an individual hacker these days. Those days are very old. What we are dealing with right now or these days is a very highly sophisticated, or we can say the organized crimes and a well-funded crime syndicates that we are dealing with right now these days. Or sometimes it is the state-sponsored agents that we are dealing with. So, what is different today is the motivations, the methods, techniques and tools that are being used in these attacks. And the focus of these hackers, or we can say because the organized crimes are involved these days, so the focus is on the big money or the big financial gains. So therefore, everyone or every hacker is basically going after the systems, the digital systems that stores or computes the digital economies. So to conclude my answer, what I can say that the advancement in the technologies are taking or are severely changing the threat landscape, and it is quite difficult these days to deal with now. So
I think एक बड़ा aspect ये भी है कि it's no longer about money anymore. When we look at specifically state-sponsored terrorism or cyber terrorism sponsored by a particular group or state, it changes the perspective radically.
Exactly.
It's not about money, it's about something else. So of course, if the threat landscape is at that level, the security or cyber security or infosec, whatever it is that we practice, has to adapt to that.
Because while covering while covering the overall threat landscape over the period of years, there are two fundamental issues that remains constant. Number one is the continuous evolvement of the threat landscape, and it is gaining sophistication day by day. And the other one is all the hackers or the attackers are always one step ahead from our defenders or the security professionals in exploiting the vulnerabilities.
Security is always catching up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, they're just extending the threat landscape to the level that we need to work together, as Mr. Nahil said, that using that platform, we need to work together to fight with all these type of attacks and the threat landscape.
Thank you. Abdul Bhai Sahab, isme, I mean, again, coming or taking the points from this question, if the entire threat landscape is this, how you think the organizations are going to adapt? What sort of strategies to combat that?
The first thing, I think whenever we go agile for major thing, we need to review our enterprise architecture. That's from the development side and managing that. Once we have everything on a standardized bus and that is mapped to support the agility. Right now, most of the enterprise making are not very much friendly for that. So once we have that on that level, and then first thing Kamran mentioned is that we need to go and often neglected area of the security aspect validation at the business processes instead of just being techie. Need to understand that. That's the second thing. After once they design the remap the enterprise architecture with the agility in mind, definitely we will have a better understanding and a better process-based security for the agility for the major changes. Yes, minor changes you can have it in a hodgepodge way in existing ones. Now coming back to the security challenge, when we talk about the agility, then one thing is that every time you develop an application, there is a chance. It's a race against time. So, and it's a human nature. Sometimes we, compromise things. And security not being in the production, people say go live and then we'll see if something comes back. The second thing is that once we, and also when you are agile in terms of your infrastructure, you don't even know how many places you're structured, then your security posture changes every time you add something. Even if I add some feature, then on infrastructure level, I need to open some services and I need to test it for their vulnerabilities. So that's the challenge. And I think one thing, and also one thing which is I think should be in the roadmap, that we are doing the behavioral analytics on a very rudimentary level for the security breaches. But I think and also they have come up with the threat sharing databases and all behavioral changes databases and processes. But I think to really, to cope up with and head on, we need to have like intelligence, AI involved in it. If we, it's getting like after ransomware and after this data manipulation, definitely the industry will come up with the solution. That's how the security business are in there. And I do foresee in next couple of years that AI will be our greatest help in this too.
Hassan, very interesting question from there. So if AI is being seen something in the future, not very distant but very near future, आपके ख्याल में InfoSec, CyberSec, ITSec, whatever it is in an agile environment, वो कैसी होगी? How is it going to be? It's a question for the younger generation to listen to, because we guys are old. By the time this thing comes in, हम लोग out of the picture हो जाएंगे already. But how do you think the security is going to look like?
I think the first thing, most of the organizations which say they are agile perhaps confused with being chaos. So agile is anything but chaos. And like I earlier said, that you have to embed security from the inception of the product, of the business. So another model, DevOps came, now there is DevSecOps. So that would be the model, but that is not to say that we are creating conflict of duties or doing away with the controls. We are saying organizations would have to work in a more metrics fashion so that what they produce is secure and yet profitable. You can't produce something which is secure but not profitable. So in my view, agile is a way of doing business and has been around since long. And now that we are talking in terms of digital economy, so embedding security from inception would be the key to solving the whole paradigm. And
thank you very much. Naved, एक last question आपसे मैंने पूछना है that जब भी हम when we look at an agile environment and of course whatever we have discussed just now, आपके ख्याल में how can we just focus on or maybe stress upon these new initiatives in security and agility while focusing on the mission critical activities of the business as well, because security is not outside the business ambit. हम लोगों को उन्हीं की लैंग्वेज बोलनी पड़ती है, उन्हीं का काम करना पड़ता है. So are the new technologies or the new initiatives that we are trying to launch, trying to bring in, are going to affect the mission critical activities of the organization? They are also trying to be agile. So from that perspective.
Yes, this is very critical area that while going towards the agility, we need to focus on the security controls implementation. There are many old trends, but they're gone now. They're over now. The old perimeter security is not enough. That is not only the area we are looking into. We also don't need to look into our mission critical business applications security while going or while moving towards the agility. There are new techniques coming in the market for this. If we'll discuss it in detail, it will take very long time. I'll just discuss some of the techniques that I have shortlisted for this. Like there is a new technique called predictive security or predictive threat analytics. That's right. If you are waiting for any breach or an incident to occur, that is too late. So instead of waiting for the incidents, we should always assume that our systems are under attack. That will help us in preparing much more secure strategies to secure our systems. Because if you're continuously thinking that, all right, our systems are under attack, हमें जो है वो इस चीज़ से भी risk है, हमें इस चीज़ से भी risk है, we need to get updated all the times with all the 0 days, with all these things. There is one area or one issue in the organization that usually we faced, like the term ethical hacker. This is the organization management doesn't like the term hacker. They like the term ethical, but they usually don't like the term hacker. And in this area or in this field or in this what we can say that this domain, if you want to fight or you're dealing with the hackers, so you should also have that skill set to understand that how they do this. Only then you can fight with those hackers. But this is an issue that can be discussed or in other forums. The other way is collaboration and knowledge sharing. That is the most and the key to the success of building a strong management or cybersecurity framework or any framework with respect to the security. And the last but not the least is end-to-end security. When end-to-end security comes up, everyone thinks that to achieve end-to-end security, we should deploy endpoint security solutions, we should deploy firewalls, we should deploy other security appliances, softwares. But basically, if you want to achieve the ultimate goal of the security model end-to-end, you should get yourself educated and your employees educated with the information security risks and the threat landscape, because this is how you can spread this culture. Because information security or cyber security is not only a department, is not a division, it's not a unit, it's basically an attitude, it's a culture that we all need to establish in our organization. And not in our organizations nowadays, it is a national matter. So we need to create this culture, we need to build this attitude in our homes, in our day-to-day lives, because we all are using all these electronic devices, your mobile devices, the internet, and everything is now digital. Everything is going towards digital or digitalization. So we all need to build this culture or spread the security awareness, or to conclude, my answer to this question is just be aware and be prepared all the time.
I would add a slight, obviously we have seen CISOs have a lot to do, and there's a plate full. And they say the best is the enemy of good. So you have to actually select few practices and perfect them rather than cover the whole. Because there was an article, the disciplined pursuit of less, and it emphasized that not only that you will have to do away with from the agility point of view, not only do away with wastage, but you will have to curb certain good things also to ensure that the basics are done.
Very true.
So this is also an anomaly in terms of chaos is usually happening because we tend to do everything. So we have to be very selective. Less is more. Yes.
And I think, saying end-to-end, it's very easy, but implementing an end-to-end solution or system is very difficult.
Especially when you have your customers entering your perimetry. You have like eBay has like 10 million customers, so end-to-end is probably
It's actually something
out of scope.
Seems like
I think,
but I think when implementing end-to-end security, we embed controls in all phases, all network entry points. Like as Kamran showed in his presentation, the ISO domains. We are embedding controls in, like we have controls in physical security, in logical security, access controls. We have monitoring controls. So we are putting end-to-end security is applied, like in all aspects. So like as part, depends upon the business process, like what area we are optimizing. We can embed controls.
I think
those
so.
are relevant.
That strategy works. But my own perception about this is that first we have to define the ends. So if the end is not definable, then of course end-to-end cannot be achieved.
Yeah.
I think the last question I'm going to put up, and it's for the entire panel. What sort of strategies you would recommend for any agile organization to bring in agile security as well? So maybe in 1 or 2 sentences, if everybody can just chip in and we can conclude the session.
Just I said. A predictive threat analytics technique. This is these days, I guess, the best technique that we should adopt to deal with the security postures, or to improve our security postures in the organization. The predictive threat analytics.
Abdul
It's from the processes. We need to visit the processes that supports the agility, like gone are the days for IT governance or policing for the IS. Now we have to be a contributor, player with them. Number one, to waste the time, and at the last minute we say no, it's not going to go live. The second thing is we need to revisit the technical landscape as well, because the agility means, like I mentioned before, and even Kamran before, that when you're talking about agility, you are bringing the services at a rapid pace, and at that time all you need is more intelligent tools. And also at that time, when you are most of the organizations which are not regulated and they can go on the public cloud, they use the cloud services, and they also use the security as a service, which is a very common thing in the market. But I'm not very comfortable that I'm buying the infrastructure and he's also policing it.
Understandable. That's understandable.
All right.
Haris?
I think, sorry.
I answered such a long that he forgot.
No problem. Happens to me a lot of time. कोई स्ट्रेटजी ऐसी समझते हो जो एजाइल एनवायरनमेंट में सिक्योरिटी को अगर हमें इम्प्लीमेंट करना हो, तो अगर कोई 1 या 2 सेंटेंस में, if you can.
1 या 2 सेंटेंस. I think we should focus on a risk governance framework. Like we should identify high risk areas,
and
that
revisit only those.
These are the risks. Those are high risk, and we have to mitigate them
And the priority basis.
At the priority basis, that's correct.
Hassan?
I think there's no single answer because agility would be if you and me are walking at the same pace, who is more agile? We both are same. So agility itself is a very competitive edge.
If both of us are moving at the same pace, we are stationary.
Yeah, perhaps we are not. We don't have any edge over each other. So if the organization wants to be agile, it has to do something different.
Yeah.
It has to challenge the status quo. So from a security point of view, I would say our processes, if I do the same, if I manage the security the same as another organization manages, that won't be agile. So we have to bring in diverse skill set within the team to think out of the box, to think different, and it's no different than business strategy. Like if two banks are doing the same business in the same way, their revenue and market share would be same.
Definitely agreed. And I think the concluding remark is that don't just leave security for one division, one unit, one department. I think it's everybody's responsibility. So we have to induct each and every employee of the organization so that everybody feels the responsibility. With this, thank you very much. If there are any questions from the floor, we're more than happy. The panel is here to answer. I think audiences, they appear very tired. Yeah, whatever is left. So I think, ma'am, there's no more questions. Thank you very much.
Please, I would request, thank you very much, thank you. I would request all of you to please stay over here because now it is time for the plaque distribution ceremony. I would also request Mr. Maad to distribute the plaques. Can I get in a yes.
Maybe somebody else will come in and
No. Mr. Abdul Qadir, Head of Information Security, National Bank of Pakistan. Mr. Mohammad Haris Hashmi, AVP Network and Systems, IT Al Baraka Bank. Mr. SM Naved Raza Naqvi, CISO and BCP Manager, Habib Metropolitan Bank. Mr. Syed Hassan Aslam, CISO, Central Depository Company. Mr. Nahil Mahmood, Chairman, PCSA. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Kamran Mir, Chief Information Officer, Bank Al Falah. Brilliant. I would request Mr. Kamran Mir to stay here and present a plaque to Mr. Maad. Mr. Mohammad Maad, Chief Information Security Officer, Faisal Bank. Thank you very much. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, yes, Mr. Nahil. He left. Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you very much. This culminates today's summit. Thank you for being with us. May we request you to visit the exhibition before you leave. And we look forward to seeing you again in 6th Pakistan CIO Summit 2018 and the 4th IT Showcase Pakistan 2018. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.